All unhappiness in life comes from not accepting what is. A Different Man comes to us from A24 and writer director Aaron Schimberg, and centers around a man named Edward, who has been going through life not being accepted by people. He's very socially awkward. He lives in a dilapidated apartment with an ever-growing piece of black mold. He interacts with his neighbors, but they look down upon him. They look at him with horror because he has a particular condition where his face is deformed, shall we say, like the Elephant Man. I am not an animal. And yeah, this condition has made him basically a laughingstock and also kind of drawing in on himself. He's personable enough, but he's obviously socially awkward. But then he meets a neighbor named Ingrid, and from there, a bit of an association, a possible romance may be blooming, and they interact with each other, and then Edward is given the opportunity to basically change his face, go through an experimental procedure to become normal, shall we say. But then he finds out that, well, maybe being normal isn't all it's cracked up to be. So, A24 being, the one that distributed this, I'm absolutely on board. There are a few films from them that I've not liked, but by and large, I fucking love what A24 does. Them and Neon Studios. And Sebastian Stan, yes, Bucky from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, plays Edward. And Renee Reinzev, I'm hoping I pronounced that right, from The Worst Person in the World and Handling the Undead, a Norwegian. She is absolutely goddamn gorgeous. Good grief. I cannot get over how talented and how absolutely stunning she is. And in, two of my favorite movies of this decade, The Worst Person in the World and Handling the Undead, she is rising up, and anytime she is in a movie and I get a chance to see it, 100% I'm there. And I thought she did a pretty good job here. Now, I'm going to keep this as spoiler-free as possible until I dive a little bit further into the movie, but what it reminds me of quite a bit is an episode of a certain television show that when I mention it, you're not going to be able to unsee it, but it also has a bit of Twilight Zone about it. It does have some good body horror effects, especially when the medical procedure starts to work. I thought Sebastian Stan did a pretty good job playing a conflicted character here. Maybe wondering, was this really the right thing to do? Because then a certain other character comes along where he realizes, boy, I really should have been different and maybe just been a good person deep inside. Miles G. Jackson also is in this. He was in Problemista, and the director is played by Patrick Wang. I did not laugh at that last name. Shut up. I didn't laugh. But from there, we do have a nice mix of black comedy, some good drama. A bit of a rushed third act, admittedly. There were some good moments in this. I think it could have used a little bit of an edit, though. I think it takes a bit of time to get there when there are a few scenes they could have cut. This could have done with a trim down to maybe an hour and 40 minutes. But as far as performances, as far as being able to look at Miss Reinzev, who, again, goddamn, she's very, very good, but man, she is captivating. This has enough good stuff really to recommend. It has, again, a few issues, but it is what it is. You're not going to have a perfect movie from a studio, no matter how great A24 is. And Aaron Schimberg did show that, potential to, have even bigger and better projects. So I appreciated what it was trying to do. Nice message of accepting people as they are, not looking down on somebody just because of their outward appearance. I think some of the stuff gets a little bit muddled. I think some of it gets a little messy. The camera work was a little bit off-putting. Maybe that was the idea, and Edward isn't exactly somebody that you necessarily can root for, even when he has this condition, but that was by design. That being said, I'm going to get into spoilers on Amazon for a few bucks. If you want to check it out, 3, 2, 1, spoilers. So, basically, there is a man named Oswald, Adam Pearson, who actually does have that condition, and he has, given speeches and he has done quite a bit of good stuff. You can check out IMDb. He's actually done some really, really good work and everything. And he is an accepting individual that just doesn't let any, outward appearance stuff stop him from living his life. He's accepted by people. He's boisterous. He's fun. He just doesn't care. And he's well-intentioned. He doesn't mean to come across like, as anything more than just wanting friends and just wanting to be accepted and just wanting to be in the mix with people. So we do see, Edward with his condition, dealing with the ever-growing black mold hole in his goddamn roof from a leak or maybe an allegory for how his life is eventually going to fall apart, that certain imperfections and certain things will get worse and grow and then drop right in on him. In fact, there's a little bit of something a little bit later on in that. And he is kind of ignored, but then Ingrid comes along and, look, I'm sorry, but if you have somebody willing to accept you like her, you fucking take that goddamn opportunity. She is a playwright. He hands her a typewriter, and a bit of romance grows, but she has this idea for a play. The heart wants what it wants. Is kind of like a certain thing, a certain thing about it. Like, that's kind of a central theme. Also, there's a bit of Beauty and the Beast. And what this reminds me of, when Oswald does come along and is accepted like this after, Edward's condition changes and things seem to be going well. He even has a bit of a romance with Ingrid. But then when Oswald comes along, after her play is getting going, Edward even puts on the prosthetic mask because his face is all different. So he can, play that, but he pretends to be a man named Guy. Now, obviously, this is bullshit. He just moved in the apartment and nobody had seen Edward in like a week. And Ingrid hears this, and yeah, they hook up. And it works for a bit, but she even implies that she goes through men like goddamn, matchsticks, for candles. I mean, she just does that because that's just what she wants to do. And nothing wrong with that. You have fun, at least you're honest with people. But I know it a few times, God, she is insanely attractive. At least to me, she is. I mean, I don't know. But she has that star quality about her. I think she's actually very good. Good body horror effects when his face transforms. 40 minutes in, his face comes off. All this stuff is going on. He then decides to take this part in her play. But certain things are getting conflicted because he implied that Edward took his own life. So that's something written in a little bit later on. This play is basically her experiences with Edward. And the camera work at times, again, was a bit off-putting. And, yeah, then Oswald comes along. And, look, Oswald's accepting he's not trying to take anyone's parts. He's not an actor. He's not any of this, but he's just somebody that just happens to come along. But he thought, oh, this would be perfect because of his obvious condition. And he's comfortable with himself. And basically, there's even one point where where Ingrid and Edward are together in bed. And I don't know how you can resist her, but anyway, she wanted him to put the mask on. I guess the weird mask stays on during sex. I don't know why that made me laugh. It was just funny. But then Edward's hanging out with Oswald. Oswald ends up taking this part without meaning to. He's not trying to take anyone's spot, but he's more, set for this goddamn role. And, Edward is a little bit crestfallen, shall we say. He kind of gets pushed to the side by Ingrid because she talked about the many men that she's gone through, and also the fact that he's been very much unraveling. Oswald does karaoke at one point. That's kind of a funny part because he's off key, but he's just having fun. And then Oswald he likes Edward, genuinely thinks, he's a good guy. Nobody's perfect, but he sees him as a good guy. And Ingrid blows up Edward, so he kind of snaps, leaves his job because he got a job as a realtor once his face, got fixed. And yeah, he shows up at the play and interrupts like this production of this very small theater that I think maybe if you hollowed out my house, I don't think the theater would have been that big. Like, seriously, if you just construct like a house and you just, don't put the walls up and everything, you just put the husk up, I think it maybe could have fit 100 people. But yeah, Edward tries to get in there and interrupts, and then Guy ends up, basically an accident ends up happening where this door that was supposed to represent the leaky apartment roof falls on him, the lights fall on him, so basically Edward is in traction. Sometime later, months later, Ingrid and Oswald are together, so everything that he thought he could have, once he got rid of that face, Oswald has. You know what it reminds me of? Remember that Tales from the Crypt episode that William Hinckley was in, or Hickney was in? I got that wrong. You know, the old guy that spent a whole lot of money to have a young man's body, but then the lady that he was getting with, or wanted to get with, got the old guy with all the money. Proof that you can't go back, you can never go back. That's basically what it was. That's essentially what it was. So, he ends up in traction. Ingrid is pregnant, apparently, I think, or maybe there was just a weird shot. But yeah, her and Oswald are together. There's a guy doing some physical therapy that kind of knocks Oswald, knocking his face and stuff like that while she's seeing him. That triggers a bunch of stuff that happened with Edward. So then Oswald comes back in to get his headphones, and meanwhile, while that's going on, Edward ends up attacking the physical therapy guy and stabbing him, and he bleeds out in the goddamn apartment. And then Oswald's like, I thought I heard noise. So then Edward ends up going to jail, and then years later he's out of jail. And then he's talking to Ingrid and Oswald while they're at dinner, and yeah, that just ends right there. That's just pretty much what they do. It's a little uneven. There are some points where it's like, okay, we could have done with this trimming, and it's a little bit obtuse, even though it has a pretty good message. But I'm still going to give it a B+ for the positives, and for the fact that you have Miss Orenza, who's just tremendous, and Sebastian Stan does a good job, but also Adam Pearson. Very, very good in this as well. So, that being said, B+. Not the best A24 offering, but still pretty good. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Recklin. I'll see you soon.